Since the very beginning of the rising of the Shield Hero, Naofumi carried a title that nobody wanted: the weakest hero. While the other three heroes received immediate recognition, Naofumi was treated like a failure. Ren Amaki wielded the sword. Motoyasu Kitamura carried the spear. Itsuki Kawasumi used the bow. All of them possessed offensive weapons. All of them seemed prepared to fight monsters and protect the world. Naofumi had only a shield. A weapon built to endure, not to win. But Shield Hero tells a very interesting story. The characters who appear strongest at the beginning rarely stay at the top. And perhaps no one represents that idea better than Naofumi Iwatani. Shortly after being summoned, he loses almost everything. He is falsely accused, abandoned by the other heroes, rejected by the kingdom, left without allies, without resources, without a reputation. While Ren, Motoyasu, and Itsuki received support from experienced adventurers and fully formed parties, Naofumi had to survive completely on his own. That difference changes his entire path of growth. The other heroes believed they understood the world because they viewed it as if it were a video game. Naofumi did not have that luxury. He had to learn how people actually lived, how trade worked, how to earn money, how to acquire equipment, how to strengthen allies, how to survive when nobody was willing to help him. And that experience becomes a massive advantage. Because while the other heroes were collecting levels, Naofumi was collecting knowledge. The first major sign of this appears during the waves. While many adventurers panic in the middle of chaos, Naofumi takes command. He protects civilians, organizes groups, creates strategies, and demonstrates a quality that very few characters possess. He remains calm even in the worst situations. But his growth accelerates even further after meeting Raphtalia. At first, she is simply a child traumatized by slavery. Over time, she becomes one of the most reliable warriors in the entire series. And that transformation does not happen merely because she becomes stronger. It happens because Naofumi learns something the other heroes fail to understand. True strength is not found only in a legendary weapon. It is found in the people who fight beside you. This difference becomes obvious again and again. When Ren faces hardship, his companions disappear. When Motoyasu loses credibility, his followers abandon him. When Itsuki falls into crisis, very few people remain by his side. Meanwhile, Naofumi continues to be surrounded by people who genuinely trust him. Raphtalia, Philo, Melty Q Melromark, and many other important allies. Together, they become one of the most powerful groups in the story. But another event completely changes the direction of Naofumi's evolution. The Curse series. After enduring countless betrayals and injustices, Naofumi unlocks the Shield of Wrath. For the first time, he gains a power capable of causing large-scale destruction. However, that power comes with a terrible cost. The more he relies on rage, the closer he comes to losing control. This is not simply a new ability. It is one of the first moments where the story suggests that Naofumi could become something far more dangerous than a normal hero. And as stronger enemies appear, that potential continues to grow. His battle against Glass is a perfect example. Up until that point, the heroes believed they were among the strongest beings in the world. Then Glass appears and destroys that illusion. She demonstrates a completely different level of power, and makes it clear that the true threats are still ahead. Interestingly, Naofumi learns more from that defeat than anyone else. While the other heroes search for excuses, he searches for answers. This attitude appears repeatedly throughout the story. Whenever he encounters a stronger opponent, Naofumi focuses on understanding the problem before trying to solve it. And that makes him an extremely adaptable fighter. The same thing happens during the Spirit Tortoise arc. This is probably one of the most important moments when trying to answer the question of this video. Because during that arc, the other three heroes collapse. Ren loses his companions. Itsuki loses his convictions. Motoyasu loses his emotional stability. Meanwhile, Naofumi continues moving forward. Not because he is invincible, but because he handles failure better than anyone else. And that difference is enormous. A hero's strength is not measured only by victories. It is also measured by the ability to keep fighting after suffering defeat. And Naofumi demonstrates that ability again and again. Another point many fans overlook is his strategic growth. As the conflicts between worlds become increasingly important, characters such as Glass, Larkberg, and Therese Alexanderite enter the story. All of them are incredibly powerful. All of them are capable of challenging heroes directly. Yet even in that environment, Naofumi remains a central figure. Many times he is not the one delivering the final blow, but he is often the person who creates the strategy that makes victory possible. And that raises an interesting question. Who is truly stronger? The warrior who defeats an enemy alone? Or the leader who discovers how to defeat enemies that nobody else could overcome? That debate becomes even more important as the story progresses. Because Naofumi stops being merely a fighter. He becomes a ruler. He manages territories, rebuilds villages, trains soldiers, negotiates alliances, and accepts responsibilities that the other heroes were never able to carry. This expands his influence far beyond the battlefield. And perhaps that is where his greatest strength truly lies. Because at this stage of the story, Naofumi does not rely solely on the shield. He possesses powerful allies, accumulated experience, combat knowledge, strategic ability, political influence, and resources that very few characters can gather at the same time. That is why the question in this video is so difficult to answer. If we are talking strictly about raw destructive power, there are still characters who can compete with him. But if we are talking about who contributes the most to saving the world, who grows the most throughout the story, who possesses the greatest combination of qualities needed to overcome increasingly dangerous threats, then it becomes harder and harder to deny one conclusion. Naofumi is no longer the weakest hero. In fact, he may have become the exact opposite, the most complete hero in the entire series.